They say you can smell your fated mate from miles away, pine and honey, lightning and home. So why did Alpha Cade Blackthorn smell nothing but fear and lavender when he bought Omega 47 for the price of a used car? The warehouse reeked of desperation and black market magic. Cade leaned against the back wall, arms crossed, watching the parade of misery with dead eyes. 30 years without a mate had taught him that fate was just another word for disappointment. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, and Cade's wolf stirred for the first time in a decade. She stumbled onto the platform in chains. Not the decorative kind some Omegas wore at formal pack gatherings. Real chains. Iron that left burns on her wrists, the kind that suppressed shifter healing. Her dark hair hung in matted tangles over a face that might have been beautiful before someone had made sure it wouldn't be anymore. A scar ran from her left temple to her jaw, angry and recent. But her eyes, those gray eyes lifted to the crowd with pure defiance. She didn't cower. Didn't weep. Just stared at them all like she was memorizing faces for a reckoning that would never come. Omega. Unmated. 23 years old. Bloodline unknown, but she's got fire. The auctioneer grabbed her chin, wrenching her face toward the crowd. She didn't flinch. Starting bid, 5,000. Silence. Nobody wanted damaged goods. Cade's wolf slammed against his chest, a sensation he hadn't felt since he was young and stupid enough to believe in destiny. Mine, it snarled. Ours. He told it to shut up. His wolf had been wrong before, had howled mate at shadows and strangers for years until Cade learned to ignore it. 4,000? The auctioneer's voice cracked with desperation. Come on, gentlemen, she cleans up nice. Strong Omega scent when she's not suppressed. Could give you a whole pack of pups. She'd rather die, the Omega said quietly. The room went still. What was that? The auctioneer backhanded her. Her head snapped sideways, but she didn't cry out. Just straightened slowly, blood trickling from her split lip, and smiled with all her teeth. I said I'd rather die than whelp pups for any of you bastards. Cade's wolf roared. His hand shot up before his brain caught up. 20,000. Every head in the warehouse turned. The auctioneer's eyes went wide. The Omega's defiant expression cracked, just for a second, into something like shock. Sold. To Alpha Blackthorn of Silvercrest. Cade pushed off the wall and made his way through the crowd. His beta, Marcus, materialized at his elbow, radiating concern. Boss, what the hell? Pay them. You bought an Omega. At an illegal auction. The council is going to lose their minds. Good. Cade reached the platform and looked up at the girl, at Sarah, though he didn't know her name yet. Only knew the number 47 branded on her wrist. Let them. She stared down at him, gray eyes trying to read him like a book written in a language she didn't trust. You're wasting your money, Alpha. I'm broken. Then we'll match. Something flickered across her face. Not hope, she looked like she'd forgotten what hope felt like. Just curiosity. Like she was surprised he'd spoken to her at all. The auctioneer unlocked her chains with shaking hands. She's all yours, Alpha Blackthorn. Bill of sale will be. I don't need paperwork for a person. But the ownership. Cade's eyes flashed gold. Did I stutter? The man retreated, practically falling off the platform. Sarah rubbed her raw wrists, still watching Cade with that wary, feral expression. Like a wolf caught in a trap trying to decide if she had the strength to chew off her own leg. Can you walk? He asked. Can you stop asking stupid questions? Despite everything, the warehouse, the chains, the way his wolf was currently shredding his insides, Cade's mouth twitched. Noted. He offered his hand. She stared at it like it might be a trick. After a long moment, she reached out. The instant their skin touched, his world detonated. The mate bond slammed into him like a freight train, a golden thread snapping into place, wrapping around his heart, his soul, every cell in his body screaming home, home, finally home. Her scent flooded his senses, and underneath the fear and warehouse filth was lavender and rain and something wild he had no name for. His wolf howled in triumph, in recognition, in a joy so fierce it nearly drove him to his knees. Mate. Our mate. Perfect. Ours. Sarah blinked at him. And felt nothing. He could see it in her eyes, the absolute absence of recognition. She looked at him the way she'd look at any stranger. Mildly annoyed. Deeply suspicious. But completely, devastatingly unaware that he was her fated mate. Cade's stomach dropped. Are you going to help me down, or are we doing some kind of weird staring contest? She asked. He closed his hand around hers and pulled her off the platform, probably too gently for someone who'd just been handling property. Her fingers were cold. She stumbled a little when she landed. She was stronger than she looked, but weeks of chains and goddess knew what else had left their mark. I've got you, he said, and his wolf purred the words. She jerked away. I don't need, she swayed, and he caught her elbow. This time she was too exhausted to pull away. Fine. But just to the car. To the pack lands. Her expression shuddered. I don't do packs. Then it's going to be a long drive, because that's where we're going. I'm not joining your pack. Didn't ask you to. Marcus appeared with Cade's jacket, giving the Omega a wide berth. She noticed and bared her teeth at him, not a smile, a threat. Marcus, 6'4" of solid muscle and attitude, actually stepped back. She growled at me, he said. She's had a bad day, Cade said. He draped the jacket over her shoulders. She flinched but didn't shrug it off. Let's go. He guided her through the warehouse, keenly aware of every eye tracking them, every alpha and beta calculating whether it was worth challenging him for her. His wolf snarled at the attention, possessive and violent in a way Cade hadn't felt in years. He let a little of it show in his eyes, a flash of gold, a promise of blood. Nobody moved. Outside, the night air hit like a blessing. Sarah took a deep breath, then another, like she'd been drowning and only just remembered how to breathe. Cade's truck waited in the gravel lot, Marcus already heading for the driver's seat. I'll drive, Cade said. Since when? Since now. Marcus tossed him the keys and climbed in the back without argument. Cade opened the passenger door for Sarah. She looked at the truck, then at him, then at the warehouse behind them. I could run, she said. Not a threat. Just stating a fact. You could try. But you'd catch me. Probably. She laughed, a hollow sound. At least you're honest. She climbed in, moving stiffly. That's more than most alphas manage. Cade shut the door and walked around to the driver's side, his mind racing. The mate bond thrummed in his chest, a constant awareness of her, her heartbeat, her breathing, the way she curled into his jacket like she was trying to disappear. His wolf wanted to comfort her, to make her understand, to force the bond until she felt it too. But Cade had seen her eyes when they touched. Whatever had broken inside her, it ran deep. Deeper than chains. Deeper than scars. He started the engine and pulled out of the lot. I'm Cade, he said after a few miles of silence. I know. Everyone knows Alpha Blackthorn. She stared out the window at the dark trees blurring past. The one who killed his father to take the pack. The one who turned Silvercrest from a joke into a territory nobody touches. The monster who doesn't take prisoners. Monster. That's a new one. Is it? He glanced at her. What's your name? She was quiet so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, so softly he almost missed it, Sarah. Sarah, he repeated, and his wolf rumbled in satisfaction. A name. Their mate had a name. Don't get attached to it, she said. I'm only staying until I figure out where else to go. You were rejected. It wasn't a question. He could smell it on her, the particular kind of anguish that came from a broken mate bond. Old pain, recent enough to still bleed. Her whole body went rigid. That's none of your business. It is if it's why you can't feel. He stopped himself. Can't feel what? Cade tightened his grip on the steering wheel. He could tell her. Should tell her. But the look on her face when they'd touched, that absolute blankness where recognition should have been, that stayed his tongue. She'd been through enough. And if she knew what she'd lost, what had been taken from her. Nothing, he said. Get some rest. We've got a couple hours to go. She watched him for a long moment, those gray eyes trying to dig through his skull into his thoughts. Then she turned back to the window, pulling his jacket tighter. They say rejection breaks your wolf, she whispered. Breaks something inside you that can't heal. I didn't believe it until Damon looked at me and said I wasn't enough. Wasn't what he wanted. Wasn't, her voice cracked. I felt it snap. Like a bone. And now there's just nothing. Cade's hands ached where he gripped the steering wheel. His wolf howled in fury, in grief, in a desperate need to hunt down this Damon and tear him apart for hurting their mate. Sleep, Sarah, he said gently. I don't trust you. I know. And I don't do the mate thing anymore. I can't. Even if the moon goddess herself dropped someone in my lap, I wouldn't feel it. Couldn't feel it. So if that's why you bought me. It's not. Then why? Cade looked at her. At his mate who didn't know him, who couldn't feel the bonds singing between them, who'd been broken by someone who should have cherished her. And he made a decision that would probably destroy them both. Because nobody should be in chains, he said. She studied him, and maybe she saw something true in his face, because she finally nodded. Closed her eyes. And after a while, her breathing evened out into something like sleep. Marcus leaned forward from the back seat. You know this is insane, right? Yep. She's your mate. And she has no idea. I know. What are you going to do? Cade watched Sarah sleep, this fierce, broken thing he'd just bought for $20,000 and a future full of complications. The mate bond pulsed in his chest, gold and desperate and completely one-sided. I have no idea, he said. But his wolf knew. Protect her. Heal her. Make her whole. And then, only then, tell her the truth. The lights of Silvercrest territory appeared on the horizon, and Cade drove toward them, toward home, with his sleeping mate and a secret that would either save them both or destroy whatever chance they had. The council was going to lose their minds. He couldn't wait. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The cottage was too nice. Sarah stood in the doorway, Marcus hovering behind her with her single bag of belongings, clothes Cade had bought her at a 24-hour store on the way here, because apparently alphas who spent 20 grand on broken omegas also gave a damn about underwear, and stared at the space like it might be a trap. Hardwood floors. A fireplace with actual logs stacked beside it. Furniture that looked comfortable instead of functional. Windows with curtains that weren't just sheets tacked up with nails. A kitchen small enough to be cozy, not industrial. And through the back window, she could see woods stretching forever under the dawn sky. It's not bugged, Marcus said, reading her silence. No cameras. No locks on the outside of the doors. You can come and go as you please. Why? Because Alpha Cade said so. That's not an answer. Marcus shifted his weight, uncomfortable. The big beta had kept his distance during the drive, but she could smell his confusion rolling off him in waves. Nobody understood why Cade had bought her. Hell, she didn't understand it either. Look, Marcus said carefully, I've known Cade since we were kids. Watched him fight his way to Alpha when his father would have run this pack into the ground. He doesn't do anything without a reason. But he also doesn't explain himself to anyone, so. He shrugged. Welcome to Silvercrest, I guess. Try not to bite anyone. No promises. He almost smiled. Almost. Then he set her bag inside the door and left, closing it softly behind him. Sarah stood alone in a cottage nicer than anywhere she'd ever lived and waited for the other shoe to drop. It didn't. Days passed. Then a week. Nobody bothered her. Food appeared on her porch every morning: fresh bread, fruit, meat that hadn't gone bad, coffee that didn't taste like dirt. She kept expecting Cade to show up with demands, with expectations, with the real reason he'd bought her. He didn't. She saw him, though. Glimpses around the territory as she explored with the cautious suspicion of someone who'd learned that freedom always had a price. He'd be talking with pack members, or heading toward the Alpha house on the hill, or running patrol in wolf form with his enforcers. And every single time, his eyes would find her across whatever distance separated them. Gold eyes in his human form. Amber in his wolf. Watching. Always watching. It set her teeth on edge. "He's checking on you," said a voice behind her one afternoon as she stood at the edge of the market square, glaring at Cade's retreating back. An older woman had appeared at her elbow, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. "That's Luna behavior, not alpha posturing." "He doesn't have a Luna." "No," the woman agreed. "He doesn't. I'm Helen, by the way. Pack healer. You look like you could use one." Sarah's hand went automatically to the scar on her face. "I'm fine. That scar says different. And the way you're holding your left side says you've got at least 2 ribs that didn't heal right." Helen's expression gentled. "I'm not going to force you, child. But my door's open when you're ready." She walked away before Sarah could tell her she'd never be ready. But that night, when the full moon rose and her old wounds burned like Damon was rejecting her all over again, Sarah found herself stumbling through the dark toward the healer's cottage, biting back screams. Helen opened the door before she could knock. "I know," the healer said softly, and guided her inside. The pain was worse than Sarah remembered. Like her body was trying to remember what it felt like to be whole and couldn't quite manage it. Her wolf, what was left of it, howled somewhere deep inside, a broken, pitiful sound that made her want to claw out her own chest. "Rejection trauma," Helen murmured, her hands glowing faint silver as she worked. "Especially during the full moon. Your wolf is trying to answer the call, but the bond that should anchor her is gone. It's like part of my soul is missing," Sarah gasped. "I know. I live with it." "Who was he? Does it matter?" Helen's hands stilled. "It matters because whoever rejected you didn't just break your bond. He broke your faith in the moon goddess herself. And that, child, is unforgivable." Sarah laughed, bitter and broken. "Tell that to Damon Ashford, Alpha of the Red Moon Pack. He didn't think I was unforgivable. Just, not enough." "Ashford." Helen's voice went cold. "That family has always been more interested in power than providence. His loss, though I know that doesn't help. Nothing helps. Not nothing." The healer's magic intensified, warm and soothing. "You're still here. Still fighting. That's not nothing." The pain eased enough for Sarah to breathe. She lay on Helen's treatment table, staring at the ceiling, and tried not to think about the fact that someone had showed her more kindness in 2 weeks at Silvercrest than she'd received in 23 years everywhere else. "Why is Cade doing this?" she asked quietly. "Doing what?" "Being decent. There has to be a catch." Helen was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe," she said finally, "he's just a better man than the ones you've known." Sarah wanted to believe that. But trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. She walked back to her cottage under the full moon, Helen's pain medicine making her footsteps steadier. The woods were alive with moonlight and the sounds of the pack running their lunar hunts. She could hear them in the distance, wolves singing to the goddess, wild and free and whole. Everything she wasn't. She'd almost reached her cottage when she saw him. A silver wolf, massive and magnificent, standing at the edge of her clearing. His amber eyes caught the moonlight, and for a second, just a second, Sarah felt something stir in her chest. Not the mate bond. She couldn't feel that anymore. But something. Recognition, maybe. Or memory of what recognition used to feel like. The wolf didn't move. Just watched her with an intensity that should have been frightening but somehow wasn't. "Go away," she said tiredly. "I'm not in the mood for whatever alpha posturing this is." The wolf's ears flicked back. He looked almost offended. Despite everything, Sarah felt her mouth twitch. "Seriously. I've had a shit night. Go run with your pack and leave me alone." For a long moment, the silver wolf didn't move. Then he sat, right there at the edge of her clearing, and curled his tail around his paws. A clear statement, "I'm not leaving." "Fine," Sarah muttered. "But you're not coming inside." She went into the cottage and firmly shut the door. The wolf was still there in the morning. And the morning after that. Always at the edge of her clearing, close enough to see but far enough not to threaten. Standing guard. It was creepy. It was controlling. It was exactly the kind of alpha behavior she'd learned to despise, claiming ownership, establishing territory, making sure his property didn't wander off. Except he never came closer unless she was in danger. The one time a young, cocky beta from a visiting pack had cornered her in the market, asking invasive questions about where she came from and whether she was available, the silver wolf had materialized out of nowhere. Didn't attack. Didn't even growl. Just stood between them, radiating such pure menace that the beta had actually tripped over his own feet backing away. Then the wolf had looked at her, "Are you okay?" and when she'd nodded, he'd vanished back into the trees. Protection, not possession. Sarah didn't know what to do with that. She started having dreams. In them, she was running through woods that felt like home, and the silver wolf ran beside her. Not chasing. Not hunting. Just there. Matching her pace. Letting her lead. And in the dreams, her wolf wasn't broken. She was whole and wild and free, and the silver wolf's presence felt like coming home. She'd wake up gasping, her chest aching with a loss she couldn't name. "You're losing your mind," she told her reflection one morning. "He's just an alpha doing alpha things. This doesn't mean anything." Her reflection didn't look convinced. 3 weeks after arriving at Silvercrest, Sarah finally confronted him. She found Cade in his office. Marcus had reluctantly given her directions after she'd badgered him for 20 minutes, and walked in without knocking. He looked up from a mountain of paperwork, surprise flickering across his face before he smoothed it away. "Sarah. Why are you watching me?" He leaned back in his chair, and she hated how good he looked. Unfair that someone so frustrating should have those eyes, that jawline, that way of looking at her like she was the only thing in the room worth his attention. "You think I'm watching you?" "I know you are. Silver Wolf. Every night. Don't insult my intelligence by denying it." Something like respect flashed in his gold eyes. "I'm not denying it." "Then why?" "Because you're alone. You're healing. And there are plenty of wolves in this territory who don't understand why their alpha brought home an unbonded Omega and gave her freedom instead of chains." He said it matter-of-factly, like it was obvious. "So I make sure they remember whose protection you're under." "I didn't ask for your protection." "No," he agreed. "You didn't. But you have it anyway." "Why?" The word came out harsher than she meant. "Why do you care? You don't know me. I'm nobody. I'm broken. So why?" "You're not broken. Don't." Her voice cracked. "Don't give me that inspirational alpha bullshit. I know what I am. Damon made sure I knew exactly what I am." Cade's eyes flashed full wolf gold. "Damon," he said quietly, "is a fool who wouldn't recognize a gift if the moon goddess delivered it personally." The words hit her like a physical blow. Not because they were smooth or practiced, but because he said them like they were simple fact. Like her worth wasn't up for debate. Sarah didn't know what to do with that either. I should go, she managed. Sarah. But she was already out the door, fleeing before he could say something else that made her want to believe she might be worth protecting after all. The next morning, she woke to shouting. Sarah stumbled out of bed and to her window. A crowd had gathered at the border of Silvercrest territory, visible through the trees. Pack members in defensive positions. And in the center of it all, her blood went cold. Damon. She'd know that sandy hair and arrogant stance anywhere. Alpha of the Red Moon Pack, the man who'd been her mate for exactly 4 days before deciding she wasn't worth the bond. He stood at the border with a dozen of his wolves, and even from this distance, she could feel his presence like a hand around her throat. Sarah was dressed and running before she could think better of it. She reached the border to find Cade standing between his pack and Damon's, Marcus at his right hand, both of them vibrating with barely contained violence. Damon looked older than she remembered. Harder. There were lines around his mouth that hadn't been there 6 months ago. I'm not asking, Damon was saying. I'm telling you. Sarah belongs to me. You'll return her, or what? Cade's voice could have frozen fire. Or Red Moon will consider this an act of theft. Of war. Sarah isn't property to be stolen. She's Damon stopped. His eyes found Sarah in the crowd, and something ugly flickered across his face. Relief mixed with possessiveness. There you are. Come here. We're going home. Sarah's wolf, broken as it was, snarled. I don't have a home with you. You made sure of that. Things have changed. Miranda, my chosen mate, she died in childbirth 3 months ago. He said it clinically, like he was reporting weather. The pack needs a Luna. I need heirs. You'll do. The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. You'll do. Not I was wrong or I'm sorry or I realize now what I lost. Just, you'll do. No, she said. Sarah. Damon's voice hardened. Don't be difficult. You're mine. The bond. You broke the bond. Her voice shook with rage instead of pain now. You stood in front of our pack and told me I wasn't enough. That you chose Miranda. That I was, she stopped, swallowed. No. You don't get to come back now because your first choice didn't work out. I'm not your backup plan. You're my mate. I'm nothing to you. You made sure of that. Damon's expression went cold. He looked at Cade. Are you going to let her disrespect me like this? She's not mine to let do anything, Cade said softly. Dangerously. She makes her own choices. Then she chooses wrong. Damon took a step forward. Cade's enforcers moved to intercept, but he held up a hand. Sarah, be reasonable. Red Moon is powerful. Silvercrest is adequate. But if Blackthorn refuses to return you, we'll take you by force. Is that what you want? War? Death? All because you're too proud to come home? Silvercrest is home, Sarah said, and meant it. The words surprised her as much as they seemed to surprise everyone else. This is home. Not Red Moon. Not you. Never you again. Damon's face twisted. You think he's better? That Blackthorn? He laughed, harsh and bitter. He's using you, you stupid girl. Alphas like him don't do charity. He bought you. He owns you. At least I would have. Cade moved. 1 second he was standing still, the next he had Damon by the throat, lifted off the ground, his eyes full wolf and his voice death itself. Call her stupid again, Cade said quietly, and I'll show you exactly what kind of alpha I am. The Red Moon wolves surged forward. The Silvercrest pack met them. The air crackled with violence about to break loose. Cade, Sarah said. Just his name. But he heard her. He lowered Damon, released him, stepped back. His pack followed his lead, still ready, still watching. Damon rubbed his throat, murder in his eyes. This isn't over. Yes, Cade said. It is. Sarah stays. You leave. That's the end of it. The council can take it up with me personally. Cade's smile was all teeth. I look forward to the conversation. For a long moment, Damon looked like he might attack anyway. Then he looked at Sarah, really looked at her, and whatever he saw made him flinch. You were always too much trouble, he muttered. Miranda was worth 10 of you. The words should have hurt. A month ago, they would have destroyed her. But standing here, with Cade at her back in a pack that had moved to protect her without question, Sarah found she didn't care what Damon thought anymore. Then you should be grateful you don't have to deal with me, she said. Go home, Damon. Find another backup plan. I'm done being yours. He left. His pack followed. And Sarah stood at the border of Silvercrest territory, watching her former mate disappear, and felt something inside her chest crack open. Not healing. Not yet. But, possibility. The chance that maybe, someday, she might remember how to be whole. She turned to find Cade watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Thank you, she said quietly. You don't have to thank me for basic decency. In my experience, basic decency is rare. Something painful flickered across his face. Then your experience, he said, has been shit. Despite everything, the confrontation, the threat of war, the way her hands were shaking, Sarah laughed. Yeah. It really has. Sarah, he stopped. Started again. You meant it? That Silvercrest is home? She should say no. Should keep her distance. Should remember that trusting alphas only led to pain. But he'd stood between her and Damon without hesitation. Had given her freedom when he could have demanded service. Had protected her every night, asking nothing in return. I meant it, she said. The smile that crossed his face was small and private and worth more than she wanted to admit. That night, she dreamed of the silver wolf again. But this time, when she woke, she didn't feel loss. She felt something else. Something warm and terrifying and too fragile to name. She got out of bed and went to her window. The silver wolf sat in his usual spot, keeping watch. Without thinking, Sarah opened the door and stepped onto her porch. The wolf's ears pricked forward. Thank you, she said to the darkness, to the wolf, to the alpha who seemed determined to prove that not all men were like the one who'd broken her. For protecting me. Even when I didn't ask for it. The wolf stood, took one step closer, then stopped. Waiting. Asking permission. Sarah sat down on the porch steps. After a moment, the silver wolf crossed the clearing and lay down at the bottom of the steps, close enough to touch but not touching. Giving her space. Giving her choice. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the moon, and Sarah felt the crack in her chest widen just a little more. Healing hurt. But maybe, just maybe, it might be worth it. Inside the house, she didn't see the way Cade's wolf looked at her, gold eyes full of longing and patience and a love she couldn't feel but he couldn't stop giving. Soon, his wolf promised. Soon she'll be ready. And then we'll tell her the truth. Cade just hoped that when that day came, she wouldn't hate him for keeping the secret. But watching her slowly, painfully come back to life, he knew he'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. Even if it meant losing her in the end. She deserved to heal on her own terms. To choose him, if she ever did, freely. The mate bond pulsed in his chest, one-sided and aching and more precious than anything he'd ever known. He'd wait as long as it took. Even if it killed him. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The hunter's moon rose blood-red over Silvercrest, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to break. She'd been at the territory for 6 weeks now. 6 weeks of slowly remembering how to exist without fear as her constant companion. 6 weeks of Cade's silver wolf keeping watch, of Helen's healing sessions, of pack members who nodded to her in the market instead of looking through her like she was already gone. 6 weeks of almost believing she might deserve this. Then Damon's formal request arrived. Marcus delivered it himself, his expression grim as he handed Cade the sealed letter in the pack common room. Sarah had been there getting coffee. She'd started joining the morning gatherings, standing on the periphery, learning the rhythm of a pack that actually functioned, and she saw Cade's face go carefully blank as he read. "What is it?" she asked, though something in her gut already knew. Cade looked at her, and she saw him make a choice. Damon has invoked the right of reclamation. The room went silent. The what? Sarah's coffee cup trembled in her hand. Helen, who'd been arguing pack politics with one of the enforcers, moved to Sarah's side. It's an old law. If a mate bond is rejected but not formally dissolved, and if no new bond exists, the original mate can petition to reclaim their omega. If, she emphasized the word, if the omega consents. That's barbaric, Sarah said. That's pack law, Marcus muttered. And Red Moon is citing it. They're demanding Cade allow Damon access to Silvercrest territory for 3 days during the hunter's moon to court you. The word court sounded obscene in Marcus's mouth. And if I refuse? Sarah asked. Cade's jaw tightened. Then legally, you've made your choice, and he has to accept it. But Red Moon is powerful, Marcus finished. And they're already spreading rumors that Silvercrest is harboring stolen property. If we refuse outright without giving him the chance pack law allows, it gives them ammunition. Makes us look like we're afraid of a fair challenge. There's nothing fair about this, Sarah said, and her voice shook with rage instead of fear. Progress. He rejected me. He chose someone else. He doesn't get to come back now because it's convenient. I know. Cade's eyes had gone wolf gold. But if we refuse him outright, he'll have grounds to challenge Silvercrest's honor. And that means war. So let him declare war. Sarah set down her coffee cup before she could throw it. I'm not worth. Don't. Cade's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Everyone in the room was staring now. The intensity between Cade and Sarah was palpable, electric, something that made the other pack members exchange meaningful looks. Sarah wanted to argue. Wanted to scream that she was exactly not worth going to war over. But the look in Cade's eyes stopped her. Like she'd insulted something sacred. What do I have to do? She asked quietly. Nothing, Cade said. You don't have to see him. Don't have to speak to him. We can refuse the petition on your behalf. And start a war my first 2 months here. She laughed, hollow. Great impression. Sarah. I'll see him. The words tasted like ash. 3 days. Let him make his case. Then I'll tell him no, it'll be official, and this ends. You don't have to do this, Helen said gently. Yeah, Sarah said. I do. Because I'm not going back to being property someone fights over. I'll make my own choice, in front of witnesses, and no one, not Damon, not the council, not anyone, will be able to say I was forced. Cade looked like he wanted to argue. But slowly, painfully, he nodded. 3 days. He can stay in the guest house on the border. Supervised visits, public spaces only, and if he so much as breathes wrong, you'll remove his lungs through his throat. Got it. Marcus was already pulling out his phone. I'll make the arrangements. The next 2 days crawled by like wounded animals. Sarah tried to prepare herself. Tried to remember all the reasons Damon had destroyed her. The casual cruelty. The public rejection. The way he'd looked at her like she was a mistake he needed to correct. But late at night, when sleep wouldn't come and her wolf whimpered in her chest, she remembered the good parts too. The first time he'd smiled at her. The way her wolf had howled in joy when the bonds snapped into place. For days of believing she'd finally found home. Before he'd ripped it all away. "You're not seriously considering going back to him," Marcus said on the second day. He'd found her in the training yard, watching the enforcers spar, and apparently decided subtlety was optional. "I'm considering my options. Your options are stay here where you're safe, or go back to the asshole who rejected you and sold you." Marcus crossed his arms. "Seems pretty clear to me." Sarah's head snapped toward him. "What do you mean, sold me?" Marcus's expression shifted. "You didn't know? How the hell did you end up at that auction?" She'd never really thought about it. After Damon's rejection, everything had been pain and haze. She'd run from Red Moon territory, wounded and broken. Then there'd been darkness. When she'd woken up, she'd been in chains. "I don't remember." "Sarah, Omegas don't just end up at illegal auctions. Someone puts them there." The implication hit her like cold water. "You think Damon? I think it's convenient that you disappeared from Red Moon lands and ended up for sale the same week." Marcus's voice gentled. "Look, I'm not trying to make this worse. But you should know what you're walking back into. If you're even thinking about it." "I'm not," she said. But her voice lacked conviction. Because the truth was, part of her, the broken, desperate part, wondered if going back to Damon would be easier. At least with him, she knew what to expect. Knew the pain, the parameters, the price. With Cade, everything was unknown. The way he watched her. The protection he offered. The fact that he asked nothing, demanded nothing, expected nothing. It felt too good. And in Sarah's experience, things that felt too good were always traps. Better the devil you know. That night, she dreamed differently. Not of the Silver Wolf, but of Damon. Of going back to Red Moon. Of being what he wanted, what he needed, even if it killed everything inside her that had started to heal. In the dream, it felt like relief. Like surrender. Like finally stopping the exhausting work of learning to live again. She woke up gasping, tears on her face, and found the Silver Wolf at her window. He was closer than usual, close enough that she could see the concern in his amber eyes. Close enough that when she opened the window, she could have reached out and touched him. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to the wolf, to the night, to whatever was listening. "He broke me. But at least with him, I know the rules. Here, I don't know what Cade wants. Why he's doing this. And not knowing is worse than anything." The wolf whined, soft and pained. "I know you're just doing your job," Sarah continued. "Protecting the pack's investment or whatever. But I wish," she stopped. Shook her head. "Doesn't matter what I wish. It never does." She closed the window and went back to bed, missing the way the Silver Wolf pressed his forehead against the glass, his whole body shaking with the effort not to shift, not to crash through the window and tell her everything. Cade ran until dawn, his wolf savage and hurting and helpless. Damon arrived on the third day at sunset, and he looked like everything Sarah remembered. Handsome in that polished, alpha way. Sandy hair perfectly styled. Blue eyes that had once made her heart race. He wore his power comfortably, a man used to being obeyed, and when he smiled at her across the meeting room Marcus had set up for the courtship, it was almost believable. Almost like he meant it. "Sarah," he said warmly. "You look better." Translation: "You look less broken." Damon. She sat across from him, Marcus and Helen flanking her. Cade had wanted to be there, but Sarah had asked him not to. She needed to do this without his golden eyes clouding her judgment. "You wanted to talk." "Talk. I made a mistake." He said it like he'd rehearsed. "When I rejected you. I was young, stupid, and I let the pack's expectations override what my wolf was telling me. Miranda was the council's choice, not mine. And I convinced myself that was enough. How'd that work out for you? Pain flickered across his face. Real pain, which surprised her. She died, Sarah. Her and the baby. And I realized, too late, that I'd thrown away the only real bond I'd ever have for a political arrangement. So you want me back because your backup plan failed? No. He leaned forward, earnest. I want you back because you're my mate. Because the bond doesn't just disappear, even when we try to pretend it does. Because my wolf has been howling for you every damn day since you left. Sarah's broken wolf stirred, confused. She couldn't feel the bond anymore, couldn't feel anything where that golden thread used to be, but his words resonated with something old and aching inside her. You rejected me, she said. In front of your whole pack. You told me I wasn't enough. I lied. He reached across the table. She didn't pull away. I lied because I was a coward who couldn't stand up to the council. But I'm alpha now. Really alpha, not just in title. And I don't need their approval anymore. Come back to Red Moon. Be my Luna. Let me spend the rest of my life making this right. It sounded good. It sounded sincere. It sounded like everything she'd wanted to hear 6 months ago when her world was crumbling. So why did it feel wrong? I need time, she said. Damon nodded, understanding. I have 3 days. Take them. Get to know me again. See that I've changed. After he left, Marcus escorting him back to the guest house with a look that promised violence if Damon stepped out of line, Helen turned to Sarah with worried eyes. You're not actually considering this. I don't know what I'm considering. Sarah, he's the one who broke you. You don't heal by going back to the thing that hurt you. Don't I? Sarah's voice cracked. Because I've been healing here, Helen. Faster than I should. My wolf is mending when everything I know says that's impossible without a mate bond. And I don't understand why. Unless, she stopped, the thought too dangerous to complete. Unless what? Unless it's not real, Sarah whispered. Unless I'm just in some kind of holding pattern, and the only way to actually heal is to go back and face what broke me. Helen looked at her for a long moment. Or, she said quietly, you're healing because you found your real home. Your real pack. And maybe, she stopped herself. Shook her head. 3 days. Give yourself 3 days before you make any decisions. The next day, Damon courted her the way alphas did. Public walks through the territory. Lunch in the market square where everyone could see. Stories about Red Moon, about the changes he'd made, about the Luna suite he'd had renovated. Just for her. Waiting for her. He didn't touch her without permission. Didn't push. Just talked, smiled, reminded her of the 4 days when everything had felt possible. And Sarah found herself forgetting, just a little, why she'd been so afraid. Cade watched from a distance, dying by degrees. You have to tell her, Marcus said on the second day of Damon's visit. They stood in Cade's office, watching through the window as Sarah and Damon walked through the gardens. About the mate bond. Before it's too late. And say what? Cade's hands were clenched so tight his knuckles had gone white. That I'm her mate, but she can't feel it, so she'll just have to take my word for it. Right after her last mate rejected her and she learned Alpha's lie. That'll go well. Better than losing her to that piece of shit. If I tell her now, she'll think I'm lying to keep her here. To control her. Cade's wolf snarled in his chest. She has to choose freely. Has to want to stay because she wants to, not because I've bound her with a bond she can't even feel. You're an idiot, Marcus said flatly. A noble, self-sacrificing idiot who's going to lose his mate because he's too principled to fight dirty. Yeah, Cade said, watching Sarah laugh at something Damon said. The sound cut him like glass. Probably. That night, Sarah didn't open her window when the silver wolf came. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and tried to figure out why the thought of leaving Silvercrest felt like drowning. On the third day, everything shattered. Sarah met Damon for their final discussion in the gardens, surrounded by flowers that reminded her of funerals. He looked confident. Certain. Like he already knew her answer. "I've thought about your offer," she said. "And?" He smiled. "Will you come home? I need to know something first." She'd lain awake all night, Helen's words echoing. Omegas don't just end up at illegal auctions. How did I get to that warehouse? The auction where Cade found me. Damon's smile didn't waver. Does it matter? You're safe now. It matters to me. You ran from Red Moon after the rejection. I assumed you'd. How did I end up in chains, Damon? Her voice hardened. Because I don't remember running. I remember pain. Then darkness. Then waking up being sold. So tell me, how does an Omega disappear from your territory and end up at an illegal auction in another state? Something shifted in his expression. Something cold. You're overthinking this. Am I? Sarah stood, her wolf snarling weakly. Or are you avoiding the question? Fine. Damon's pleasant mask cracked. You want the truth? Yes, I had you taken there. After I rejected you, you were useless to me, broken, damaged, a liability. Miranda was pregnant, and I didn't need complications. So I had some contacts remove you from the territory and put you somewhere you could be, rehomed. The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. You sold me. I had you relocated. To an auction. Where I was sold. Like property. Where you were supposed to be bought by a Beta family looking for a house Omega, Damon corrected, annoyed now. Someone who'd take care of you, give you purpose. How was I supposed to know Cade Blackthorn would show up and overpay? Sarah's vision went red. You sold me because I was broken. And I was broken because you rejected me. Yes, well. Damon shrugged. Mistakes were made all around. But I'm here now, aren't I? Offering you a second chance. Because you're valuable, Sarah. More valuable than you know. Valuable. The word tasted like poison. You're bloodborne, Damon said, and his eyes gleamed. Do you even know what that means? Your bloodline hasn't been diluted by generations of mixed breeding. You're pure Omega, the kind that only comes along once every few generations. Any alpha pups you bear will be stronger, faster, more powerful than normal wolves. That's why I bonded you in the first place. That's why I want you back. The truth hit her like a physical blow. You never wanted me. You wanted what I could give you. I want both. He stood, reached for her. Come back to Red Moon. Be my Luna. Give me heirs. And I'll make sure you're protected, provided for, everything you need. Except choice, Sarah said quietly. Except freedom. Except the basic fucking respect of being treated like a person instead of a breeding animal. Sarah. Get out. You're being emotional. I said get out. Her voice cracked with power she didn't know she had. Around them, the garden seemed to tremble. Or maybe that was just her rage, finally finding its voice. Out of this garden. Out of this territory. Out of my life. You sold me once, and you're not buying me back. Damon's expression went cold. You think Blackthorn is better? He bought you, Sarah. Paid $20,000 for the privilege of owning you. At least I'm honest about what I want. He gave me freedom, Sarah said. He gave me choice. He gave me a cottage and asked for nothing. You gave me chains and expect gratitude. So yes, Damon, he's better. 1,000 times better. Now get the fuck out before I ask him to remove you. She didn't have to. Cade stepped out of the shadows, and his eyes were full wolf and murderous. Marcus flanked him, with half a dozen enforcers, all of them vibrating with barely leashed violence. I believe, Cade said softly, the lady asked you to leave. Damon's face twisted. This isn't over. Yes, Sarah said. It is. I reject your petition. I reject your claim. And I reject you, Damon Ashford, for the last goddamn time. Now get out of my home. For a moment, she thought he'd fight. Then something in Cade's expression made him reconsider. He left, his wolves following, and the hunter's moon watched him go with blood-red indifference. When the sounds of his departure faded, Sarah's legs gave out. Cade caught her before she hit the ground, his arms solid and sure and there. I've got you. He sold me, she whispered. He broke me and then he sold me like garbage. I know. And he wanted me back for breeding. Not because I matter. Because I'm useful. I know, Cade said again, and his voice was gentle and furious all at once. I know, and I'm sorry. Sarah looked up at him, this alpha who'd bought her freedom instead of her service, and something inside her chest cracked wide open. Not healing. Not yet. But close. So close. Why? She asked. Why did you really buy me? Cade's gold eyes met hers, and she saw him make a choice. Saw him decide something that looked like it cost him everything. Because my wolf knew you, he said quietly. The second I saw you on that platform, something in me recognized something in you. Not the mate bond, I know you can't feel that. But something deeper. Something that said you mattered. That you were worth saving. Worth protecting. Worth, he stopped. Swallowed. Worth everything. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you right now, he said. But Sarah, I need you to understand something. You're not property. Not to me. Not to anyone here. You're pack. You're home. And if you never feel anything more than that, if you never, his voice cracked. If you stay just because it's safe, that's enough. You're enough. Just as you are. Sarah stared at him, this man who'd given her everything and asked for nothing, and felt her broken wolf stir. Not healed. But, there. Present. Aware in a way she hadn't been since Damon's rejection. I'm not leaving, she said. Cade's relief was palpable. No. No. She was still in his arms, she realized. Still pressed against his chest. Still feeling his heartbeat like thunder against her palm. This is home. She stopped, afraid to complete the thought. I'm what? I don't know, she admitted. But I want to find out. Something blazed in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Or something fiercer. But all he said was, then we have time. Helen found them still in the garden an hour later, Sarah asleep in Cade's arms while he held her like something precious and breakable and worth all the patience in the world. You didn't tell her, Helen said. Not yet. When? Cade looked down at his mate, his wolf purring at finally. Having her in his arms. When she's ready. When she's healed enough to hear it without fear. When she can choose me freely. And if that never happens? Then I'll love her anyway, Cade said simply. For as long as I live. Helen shook her head, but she was smiling. You're either the best man I've ever met, or the most foolish. Probably both. That night, when Cade laid Sarah in her bed and turned to leave, her hand caught his wrist. She was mostly asleep, caught in that space between waking and dreaming. Stay, she murmured. Please. Just, stay. So he did. He shifted to wolf and curled up at the foot of her bed, amber eyes watchful, and kept guard over his mate while she slept without nightmares for the first time in 6 months. And in her dreams, Sarah ran through moonlit woods with a silver wolf at her side, and almost, remembered what home felt like. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through her window and the warm weight of a silver wolf at the foot of her bed. For a moment, she just lay there, watching Cade's wolf breathe, his massive form somehow careful not to crowd her. He'd stayed all night. And she'd slept better than she had in months, no nightmares, no phantom pain, just peace. His amber eyes opened, found hers, and she saw the question there. "Are you okay?" "I'm okay," she said softly. And meant it. The wolf's tail thumped once against her blanket. Then he rose, stretched, and padded to the door. She let him out, watching him disappear into the dawn woods, and felt something unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Not the mate bond, she still couldn't feel that, probably never would. But something else. Something warm and terrifying and real. Trust. She was falling in love with Cade Blackthorn, and she had no idea what to do about it. The next week passed in a strange, fragile happiness. Damon was gone, his petition rejected, his claim dissolved. Sarah felt lighter without the threat of him hanging over her head. She started training with the pack's enforcers. Helen had pointed out that learning to fight might help her feel less vulnerable, and discovered that her wolf, broken as she was, still had teeth. She started taking meals in the common room instead of alone in her cottage. Started learning names, stories, the complicated dynamics of a pack that actually functioned like a family. And she started spending time with Cade. Not planned. Just, orbit. She'd be reading in the gardens, and he'd appear with coffee. He'd be running patrol routes, and she'd fall into step beside him. They'd end up in his office late at night, her curled in the chair by the fireplace while he worked through paperwork, both of them comfortable in the silence. It felt natural. Right. Like something she'd been missing her whole life without knowing it. "You're smiling," Marcus observed one afternoon as he watched Sarah spar with one of the younger enforcers. "It's weird. I didn't know your face did that." Sarah blocked a punch and swept her opponent's legs. "Shut up, Marcus. I'm just saying, it's nice. The whole not looking like you want to murder everyone thing. Very becoming." She flipped him off without breaking her stance. He laughed. Cade, watching from the edge of the training yard, felt his wolf purr with satisfaction. She was healing. Slowly, painfully, but healing. And every smile, every laugh, every moment she forgot to guard herself was a gift he'd never take for granted. "You're staring," Helen said, appearing at his elbow. "Again." "I'm supervising." "You're mooning." "There's a difference." The healer's expression gentled. "She's doing better, Cade. Really better. Her wolf is stronger. The rejection trauma is fading. It's like watching someone come back to life." "I know. So when are you going to tell her?" Cade dragged his eyes away from Sarah. "Tell her what?" "Don't play stupid. It's insulting to both of us." Helen crossed her arms. "She's healing. She's starting to trust. And she looks at you like you hung the moon, even if she doesn't realize it yet. Maybe it's time. She's not ready. Or maybe you're afraid she'll reject you." The words hit harder than they should have. "If she does, she does. But I won't trap her with a bond she can't feel. Won't make her question whether her feelings are real or just biology forcing her hand. She deserves better than that." Helen sighed. "You're a good man, Cade Blackthorn. Infuriatingly noble, but good." "Tell that to my council," he muttered. "They've called another meeting for tonight. Third one this month." "About Sarah?" "About my lack of a Luna. Apparently, the pack needs proper leadership, and an unmated alpha is." He stopped as Sarah landed a solid hit on her sparring partner and let out a whoop of victory. His chest ached with pride and longing. "Never mind. It doesn't matter." But it did matter. And that night, in the council chamber, it mattered a hell of a lot more. Sarah was in the library. Silvercrest had an actual library, with books that smelled old and important and real, when she heard voices outside the council chamber. She'd come looking for something to read, not to eavesdrop, but the sound of her name stopped her cold. The Omega is a liability. A woman's voice, cultured and cold. She's been here 2 months, and she's still unbonded. Still damaged. Still taking up resources that could be used for actual pack members. She is a pack member. That was Marcus, defensive. She's a pet, the woman corrected. Cade's pet. And while we all respect his compassion, the pack needs more than compassion. We need a Luna. We need leadership. We need strength. Sarah pressed herself against the wall, something sick unfurling in her stomach. Elena has a point, another voice said. Male, older. Cade has been without a mate for 30 years. The pack has been patient. But this Omega, she can't even feel the mate bond. Can't produce strong heirs. Can't fulfill the duties of a Luna. She's a distraction at best, a weakness at worst. So what are you suggesting? Marcus's voice was dangerous now. That Cade do what's best for Silvercrest, Elena said. Reject the Omega. Take a proper mate. One who can stand at his side, who can bear alpha heirs, who can actually lead this pack into the future. And you just happen to have a candidate in mind, Marcus said flatly. I've made no secret of my feelings for Cade. We were together once, before he became alpha. Before he decided pack politics were more important than, she stopped. That's not the point. The point is Silvercrest deserves better than a broken Omega who can't even sense her own alpha's regard. There was a long silence. Cade won't abandon her, Marcus said finally. Then we'll make him choose. Elena's voice hardened. The council will issue an ultimatum. Either he bonds with a suitable mate within the month, or we challenge his fitness to lead. Half the council already agrees with me. We just need a few more votes. You'd challenge Cade? Over a woman? Over the future of this pack, Elena corrected. Cade is a brilliant alpha. Strong, strategic, exactly what Silvercrest needs. But even the best leaders have blind spots. And his blind spot is currently living in the cottage by the eastern woods, healing from another alpha's rejection while ours pines away in silence. Sarah didn't hear the rest. She ran. Back to her cottage, her sanctuary, the place Cade had given her when he'd asked for nothing in return. She slammed the door and leaned against it, her chest heaving, her wolf whimpering weakly. They were right. God, they were right. She was broken. Damaged. A liability. She couldn't feel the mate bond, couldn't be a proper Luna, couldn't give Cade anything except problems and pack politics. And he deserved so much better. Deserved someone whole, someone strong, someone who could stand at his side without making him choose between his heart and his pack. Someone like Elena, apparently. Sarah looked around the cottage, at the life she'd started to build here, the home she'd started to believe in, and felt it all crumble to ash. She couldn't stay. If she stayed, Cade would fight for her. Would choose her over pack politics, over council demands, over his own best interests. Because that's who he was, noble and self-sacrificing and too damn good for his own good. And she'd let him. She'd let him destroy his pack's faith in him, risk his position, sacrifice everything he'd built. All for a broken Omega who couldn't even feel the bond that made her his. No, she whispered to the empty room. Not again. I won't be the reason another alpha loses everything. The decision hurt. God, it hurt worse than Damon's rejection, worse than the auction, worse than anything except maybe dying. But it was right. She'd leave. Quietly, before Cade could stop her. Before she could change her mind. She'd go somewhere far away where pack politics didn't matter and broken Omegas could exist without destroying the people who tried to help them. It was the kindest thing she could do. Sarah packed light, just the clothes Cade had bought her, some money she'd saved from the small stipend the pack provided, nothing she couldn't carry. She waited until midnight, when the pack would be sleeping and patrol routes would be changing. She almost made it. The attack came at the border, where Silvercrest territory met neutral ground. They came out of the shadows, 3 rogues, malnourished and desperate and moving with the coordination of wolves who'd been given orders. Sarah's weak wolf surged, but she was still healing, still learning to fight, still not strong enough. The first one caught her across the ribs with claws that burned like silver. She went down hard, tasting blood, her bag flying across the ground. The second one lunged for her throat. She rolled, barely avoiding teeth, and came up in a crouch. "I don't want trouble." "Should have thought of that before you made yourself a problem," the largest one said. His eyes were feral, but there was intelligence there. "Purpose. Nothing personal, Omega. Just business." "Who sent you?" But she already knew. The rogue smiled. "Someone who wants Silvercrest strong. And you're making it weak." They attacked together. Sarah fought. She fought with everything Helen had taught her, everything the enforcers had drilled into her, everything her broken wolf could muster. She got in good hits, drew blood, heard bones crack, made them work for it. But there were 3 of them, and she was alone, and she was still healing from wounds that went deeper than flesh. The killing blow came from behind. Claws raked across her back, tearing through muscle, scraping bone. Sarah screamed and went down, blood pooling beneath her, her vision going gray at the edges. "Make it quick," the leader said. "We don't need her suffering. Just need her gone." The rogue above her raised his claws for the final strike. Thunder split the night. No, not thunder. Rage. Pure, feral, alpha rage that shook the trees and sent birds screaming into the sky. The rogue attacking her froze, his eyes going wide with the kind of fear that came from recognizing a predator so far above you that running was pointless. Then Cade was there. Not Cade the careful alpha. Not Cade the patient protector. Cade the monster they warned cubs about in stories. Cade the beast who'd killed his own father to save his pack. Cade unleashed. His wolf was massive, silver and terrible and absolutely feral. He hit the first rogue with enough force to break its neck, the body flying 20 feet before it hit a tree and didn't get back up. The second one tried to run. Cade's jaws closed around its throat, and there was a wet, final sound. The leader, the one who'd called her a problem, backed away, hands raised. Wait, we were just. Cade shifted mid-lunge, human now, his hand around the rogue's throat, his eyes gold and inhuman and merciless. "Who sent you?" His voice didn't sound like his voice. It sounded like death learning to speak. "I don't." Cade's hand tightened. Bones creaked. "Who sent you?" The alpha female, the rogue gasped. "Elena. She said the Omega was making you weak. That if we removed the problem, she'd pay us." He didn't finish. Cade's hand closed, and the rogue fell, and then there was just silence and blood and Sarah bleeding out on the ground. "No," Cade said, human and broken and terrified. "No. He was at her side in a heartbeat, his hands shaking as he turned her over. Blood everywhere. Too much blood. Her back was shredded, the wounds deep and already going cold. Her eyes were open but unfocused, her breathing shallow and rattling. "Sarah," he said. Begged. "Sarah, stay with me." "Cade?" Her voice was so faint he had to lean close to hear it. You came." "Always," he said fiercely. "I'll always come for you." His voice broke. "You're mine, Sarah. My mate. I should have told you." "Should have." "Can't feel it," she whispered. Blood bubbled at her lips. "Broken. Can't feel." I know, and it doesn't matter. You're still mine. Still." Then the world exploded. No, not the world. Inside. Inside Sarah's chest, something detonated like lightning striking earth. Her broken wolf surged, not weak anymore but fierce, feral, fighting for life. And with her came something else. The bond. It snapped into place between one heartbeat and the next, golden and burning and absolutely unbreakable. Sarah felt it, finally felt it, like a thread winding around her heart, her soul, her very existence. Felt Cade on the other end of it, his wolf howling in recognition, his presence like coming home after being lost for lifetimes. "Oh," she gasped. And then, stronger, "Oh my God." Cade's eyes went wide. "Sarah?" "I feel it," she whispered. "The bond. I feel you." Your wonder and terror crashed through her. "You're my mate. You've been my mate this whole time, and I didn't." "I know," he said, and he was crying, this powerful alpha was crying as he held her broken body. "I know, and I'm sorry. I should have told you." "Why didn't you?" "Because you needed to choose freely. To heal without obligation. He looked at her wounds, at the blood still flowing too fast. "None of it matters if you die. Sarah, please. Hold on. Helen's coming. The pack is coming. Just hold on. Cade." She lifted a shaking hand to his face. The bond pulsed between them, gold and desperate and so strong it hurt. "I was leaving. I know. To protect you. From me. She coughed, and more blood came. Elena was right. "I'm broken. Weak. I can't." "You're none of those things," he snarled. "You're strong and fierce and brave, and you're mine. My mate. The word caught in his throat. My everything. Don't you dare leave me. Don't you dare." "Not planning to," she managed. "Not now. Not when I can finally feel." Her eyes drifted closed. "Feel how much you love me." His howl shattered the night. The bond flared between them, and Sarah felt his wolf pour into her through that golden connection. Felt his strength, his life force, his absolute refusal to let her go. It burned through her like wildfire, cauterizing wounds, jump-starting her failing heart, dragging her back from the edge by sheer force of will. When Helen arrived with half the pack, she found Cade curved over Sarah's body, the mate bond blazing between them like a living thing, both of them glowing faint gold with power that shouldn't be possible. "Get her to the healing house," Helen barked. "Now." Marcus and 2 enforcers lifted Sarah carefully, rushing her toward the pack's medical center. Cade followed, his hand locked with hers, the bond keeping her tethered to life through sheer stubbornness. "She felt it," he said to Helen, his voice wrecked. Right before, she finally felt the mate bond. "Rejection trauma," Helen said grimly as they ran. "Sometimes it doesn't fully heal until the Omega faces death. The wolf's survival instinct overrides the damage." "But Cade," she looked at him. "The amount of power you're channeling through your bond right now should kill you both. How are you?" "I don't care," he said flatly. "She doesn't die. I don't care what it costs. You might not survive. Then I don't survive. But she lives." Helen stopped arguing and focused on keeping Sarah alive. It took 6 hours. 6 hours of Helen and 2 other healers working with every ounce of magic they possessed. 6 hours of Cade kneeling beside Sarah's bed, his hand in hers, the bond burning between them as he fed her his strength. 6 hours of the pack gathering outside, Marcus keeping them updated, whispers spreading about the mate bond that had finally, impossibly clicked into place. 6 hours of Cade begging the moon goddess, the universe, anyone who'd listen, please. Not her. Not now. Not when she's finally mine. Dawn was breaking when Sarah's eyes opened. "Cade," she whispered. He was beside her in an instant, his face haggard, his eyes red, his hand trembling as it cupped her face. "I'm here. Still alive," she observed. "That's unexpected." "Don't," he said roughly. "Don't joke. Not about his voice broke. I thought I'd lost you. You didn't. She turned her face into his palm, and the bond pulsed warm and alive between them. I can feel you. All the time. It's like you're in my head. My heart. Everywhere. That's the mate bond, he said. What it's supposed to feel like. What I've felt since the moment I bought you. Sarah stared at him. You felt this for 2 months? This, she gestured vaguely at the golden thread connecting them. This overwhelming, all-consuming, impossible to ignore thing? Yes. And you didn't tell me. You weren't ready. Cade. You'd just been rejected by your first mate and sold at an auction like property, he said fiercely. If I'd told you then that you were my mate, what would you have thought? That I was lying to control you. That I was another alpha trying to own you. You would have run, and I would have lost you before I ever had the chance to. He stopped. Swallowed. I needed you to choose me. Freely. Without the bond forcing your hand. Sarah felt tears slip down her face. You're an idiot. I know. A noble, self-sacrificing, absolutely infuriating idiot. I know. I was falling in love with you anyway, she whispered. Bond or no bond. I was already yours. I just didn't have the words for it yet. Cade made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. He pressed his forehead to hers, careful of her injuries, and just breathed her in. You're alive. Because of you. You channeled enough power through our bond to bring me back from the edge. Helen said it should have killed us both. Worth it. Cade. Every risk. Every cost. Worth it. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. You're my mate, Sarah. My home. My everything. And I would burn the world down before I let it take you from me. The bond flared between them, and Sarah felt the truth of his words resonate in her bones. Felt his love like a living thing, fierce and patient and absolutely unshakable. Elena sent them, she said quietly. The rogues. She wanted me gone so you could take a proper mate. Cade's eyes went hard. I know. Marcus is handling it. Handling it how? She's been exiled from Pact lands. Anyone who supported her has been given a choice, accept you as their Luna or leave. Most chose to stay. And those who left found themselves escorted beyond our borders with Marcus's boot prints on their asses. Despite everything, Sarah almost smiled. I'm going to be a terrible Luna. You're going to be perfect. I can barely fight. I'm still healing from rejection trauma. I don't know pack law or politics or. You're brave and fierce and stubborn, and you stood up to Damon when you could barely stand. You've survived things that would have broken wolves twice your size. And you're mine. He kissed her forehead gently. That's all I need. Sarah laced her fingers through his, feeling the bond pulse warm and constant. I'm scared. Me too. What if I'm not enough? What if? You're everything, Cade said simply. And we'll figure out the rest together. She wanted to argue. Wanted to list all the reasons she was a terrible choice for Luna. But the bond hummed between them, singing of home and belonging and forever, and for once, Sarah let herself believe. Maybe broken things could be made whole. Maybe rejection wasn't the end. Maybe she'd found exactly where she was always meant to be. Okay, she whispered. Together. Cade kissed her then, soft and careful and full of promise. And the mate bond flared gold between them, a thread that would never break, a love that had waited lifetimes to finally click into place. Outside, the sun rose over Silvercrest, and the pack began to whisper the news. Their alpha had finally found his mate. And she was worth every moment of the wait. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The healing house smelled like blood and magic and desperation. Sarah had been stable for 6 hours. Then her body started failing again. Her wolf is fighting, Helen said, her hands glowing silver over Sarah's chest. But the damage was too severe. The silver poisoning from those claws is spreading faster than I can heal it. She needs. The healer stopped, her expression grim. What? Cade demanded. What does she need? Helen looked at him, and he saw the answer in her eyes before she said it. A completed mate bond. Your alpha blood, channeled directly through a mark, could burn out the poison. Heal her from the inside out. The world tilted. No, Cade said. Cade. She's unconscious. She can't consent. I won't, his voice cracked. I won't force a bond on her while she's helpless. That makes me no better than the people who sold her. Marcus stepped forward, his expression desperate. Or the mate who rejected her. Cade, this is different. This is saving her life. By taking away her choice. Cade's hands were shaking. By marking her when she can't say yes or no. He looked at Sarah, pale and dying on the bed, and felt something inside him shatter. I can't. Then she dies, Helen said quietly. In the next hour, maybe 2, the poison will reach her heart. And even the mate bond won't be able to pull her back. Cade closed his eyes. Every instinct in him screamed to mark her, claim her, bind her to him so tightly that death itself couldn't take her. His wolf howled for it, demanded it, couldn't understand why his human half was hesitating. But he knew. He knew because he'd watched her fight for autonomy every day since he'd brought her here. Knew because she'd chosen to stay at Silvercrest freely, without obligation. Knew because the first real smile he'd seen from her had come when she realized he expected nothing in return for her freedom. If he marked her now, without her consent, he'd save her life but destroy the thing between them that mattered most. Trust. There has to be another way, he said. There isn't, Helen said. I'm sorry, Cade. But it's mark her or lose her. Marcus moved closer, his voice low. She said yes. Cade's eyes snapped open. What? Right before she passed out. When you told her you were her mate. Marcus's expression was carefully neutral. She whispered, yes. I heard it. So did 2 of the enforcers. Hope flared, vicious and dangerous. You're certain? Marcus hesitated. I think so. It was faint. But I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure isn't consent, Cade said flatly. Pretty sure isn't. He looked at Sarah again, her heartbeat growing weaker by the minute. God. This is impossible. This is being alpha, Marcus said quietly. Making impossible choices. Doing what needs to be done even when it costs you everything. Cade laughed, bitter and broken. And if I mark her without her clear consent? What kind of alpha does that make me? The kind who does whatever it takes to protect his mate, Helen said. Cade, I understand your hesitation. I do. But she felt the bond. She knows you're her mate. Surely that implies. It implies nothing, Cade snarled. Feeling the bond doesn't mean she wants me to mark her while she's unconscious. Doesn't mean she wants to be bound to me forever without having a say in when and how. He ran his hands through his hair, every muscle trembling with the effort not to just give in. What if she wakes up and hates me for it? What if? What if she doesn't wake up at all? Marcus's voice was hard now. Because that's what's going to happen if you don't do something. You'll have your principles. And a dead mate. The words hit like a physical blow. Cade looked around the room. At Helen with her healing magic exhausted, at Marcus with his desperate logic, at the 2 enforcers standing guard who'd both nodded when Marcus claimed Sarah had said yes. All of them watching him, waiting to see what he'd choose. His mate's life. Or her right to choose. There has to be another way, he said again, but his voice lacked conviction. Helen opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Her eyes went distant, thoughtful. There might be. Maybe. But it's never been done, and it could kill you both. Tell me. Alpha blood can heal through a bond even without a mark, she said slowly. It's not as effective. Not as permanent. But if you channeled enough of your life force through the mate bond directly, blood to blood, wolf to wolf, you might be able to burn out the poison long enough for her body to heal itself. Might, Cade repeated. It would take everything you have. And I mean everything. You'd be feeding her your strength, your healing, your very life force. It could stop your heart. Could fry your wolf. Could. Do it, Cade said. Cade. She gets to choose, he said fiercely. When she wakes up, if she wakes up, she gets to decide if she wants me. If she wants the bond. If she wants any of this. He moved to Sarah's bedside, took her hand. So we do this your way, Helen. And if it kills me, at least I'll die knowing I didn't take away her choice. Marcus made a sound of protest. You're the alpha. The pack needs you. The pack needs a leader who does what's right, not what's easy. Cade looked at his beta, his best friend, the wolf who'd stood beside him through everything. If I don't make it, the pack is yours. And you make sure she knows, his voice broke. You make sure she knows I chose this. That I'd choose it 1,000 times. That she was worth everything. Damn it, Cade. Those are my orders, beta. Follow them. Marcus's jaw worked. Then, finally, he nodded. Yes, Alpha. Helen moved quickly, directing the enforcers to bring supplies. She slit Cade's wrist first, then Sarah's, pressing the wounds together. Now open the bond. As wide as you can. And pour everything you have into her. Cade closed his eyes and reached for the golden thread connecting them. It blazed to life between them, stronger now that Sarah had felt it, acknowledged it. He opened himself completely, dropping every wall, every shield, letting his power pour through the bond like a river breaking its banks. The effect was immediate and excruciating. His strength drained like water through a sieve. His wolf howled as its life force was siphoned away. His heart stuttered, struggling to pump blood that was flowing into his mate instead of sustaining him. He felt his bones go cold, his vision gray, his very soul stretching thin. But Sarah's heartbeat strengthened. It's working, Helen breathed. The poison is burning out. Her wolf is, oh, goddess. Her wolf is stronger than it should be. Cade couldn't answer. Couldn't do anything except hold on and give everything he had. He felt Sarah's wolf surge, felt the silver poison scream as his alpha blood consumed it, felt her body knit itself back together with strength that shouldn't be possible. Cade, you need to stop, Marcus said, alarmed. You're going to kill yourself. Not yet, Cade managed. Not until. His heart stopped. Just for a second. Just long enough for Helen to scream and Marcus to lunge forward. Then it stuttered back to life, weak and irregular, and Cade felt himself slipping. Worth it, he thought distantly. She's worth it. The bond flared one last time, then suddenly, impossibly, power flooded back through it. Not his power. Hers. Sarah's wolf blazed to life like a silver sun, and her strength poured into him through their connection. Not taking. Giving. Feeding him her healing, her life force, her absolute refusal to let him die for her. No, her wolf snarled through the bond. Mine. You don't get to leave me. Cade's eyes flew open. Sarah was awake. Her gray eyes were blazing silver, full wolf, full strength, fully and completely healed. The wounds on her back had closed. The poison was gone. And her wolf was radiant, powerful, a silver omega that shone like moonlight made flesh. You idiot, she gasped, her hand tightening around his. You were going to die for me. Had to, he managed. His heart was beating again, strong and sure, sustained by her strength flowing through their bond. Your choice. Had to. Shut up. She pulled him down and kissed him. The bond exploded between them. Not complete, not marked, but alive and burning and absolutely mutual. Cade felt her love slam into him through the connection, fierce and certain and real. Felt her wolf twine with his, claiming him as surely as any mark. Felt her choose him, freely and completely, with every fiber of her being. When she pulled back, her eyes were still silver. I want the bond. Sarah. I want you to mark me. I want to mark you. I want everything, Cade. Her voice was steady, certain. And I want to do it my way. He stared at her. Your way. Tradition says the Alpha marks first, she said. Claims the Omega. Binds them to his will. Her smile was fierce. Screw tradition. I mark you first. The room went silent. Sarah, Helen said carefully. That's never been done. The Omega always. The Omega always what? Submits? Accepts? Takes what she's given. Sarah's eyes blazed. I'm not that kind of Omega. And this isn't that kind of bond. She looked at Cade, and her expression gentled. You gave me choice. You gave me freedom. You were willing to die to let me decide my own fate. So I'm deciding. She bared her throat. But you're deciding too. I'm not claiming you without your consent. So tell me, Alpha Blackthorn. Do you accept my mark? Do you choose me, freely and completely, as your mate? Cade couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Could only stare at this impossible, fierce, absolutely perfect woman who'd just rewritten every rule he'd ever known. Yes, he finally managed. God, yes. 1,000 times yes. Then come here, she said. And let me show you how an Omega claims her Alpha. He leaned down, baring his throat, surrendering to his mate in a way that should have felt like weakness but instead felt like flying. Sarah's teeth grazed his throat, then sank in, right over his pulse, marking him with a bite that blazed with silver light. The bond completed with a shock that shook the room. Cade gasped as her power flooded into him through the mark, not submission, but partnership. Not weakness, but shared strength. He felt her wolf twine completely with his, felt their souls knit together, felt the bond lock into place like the final piece of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving his entire life. My turn, he said roughly. Sarah bared her throat, and he marked her with a gentleness that belied the feral joy howling through him. His teeth sank into the soft skin over her pulse, and the bond blazed complete, golden and silver and absolutely unbreakable. Mine, his wolf purred. Ours, hers corrected. And Cade felt the truth of it resonate through every cell of his being. Not mine. Not hers. Ours. Together. Equal. Perfect. When they pulled apart, both of them were glowing faint silver gold, the completed mate bond visible to everyone in the room. Marcus was grinning like an idiot. Helen was crying. And the two enforcers were staring at Sarah like they'd never seen an Omega before. Your wolf, one of them whispered. It's silver. Silver like the Alphas. I've never. Bloodborne, Helen breathed. She's a bloodborne Omega. I thought they were just legend. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means you're rare, Cade said, pulling her close, unable to stop touching her now that she was finally, completely his. It means your bloodline is ancient and powerful. It means she's the strongest Omega I've ever seen, Marcus said. Which is going to make what happens next very interesting. What happens next? Sarah asked. As if summoned, the door burst open. Elena stood there, flanked by 3 wolves who clearly hadn't gotten the memo about her exile. She looked at Sarah, marked, healed, blazing with power, and her expression twisted with rage. She snarled. You're supposed to be dead. Surprise, Sarah said flatly. Turns out I'm harder to kill than you thought. Then I'll finish the job myself. Elena's eyes flashed alpha gold. I challenge you for the position of Luna. Traditional combat. To the death. Elena, Cade said, his voice pure menace. You tried to have my mate murdered. You're exiled. You have no right to challenge anyone. I have every right. Pack law states any unmated alpha female can challenge for the Luna position. And she, Elena pointed at Sarah with contempt, was marked less than 5 minutes ago. Barely counts as bonded. Certainly doesn't count as Luna. She's my mate. And I was almost your mate once, Elena snapped. Before you decided pack politics were more important than your heart. Before you spent 30 years alone rather than take what was offered. Well, I'm offering again, Cade. Me or her. Proper Alpha Luna or broken Omega playing dress-up. Choose. I already chose, Cade said coldly. Sarah is my mate. My Luna. And you tried to have her killed. You're lucky I don't. I accept, Sarah said. Everyone turned to stare at her. What? Cade's voice was strangled. I accept her challenge. Sarah stood, and her wolf blazed silver in her eyes. Traditional combat. For the position of Luna. Right now. Sarah, no. She tried to murder me, Sarah said quietly. She sent rogues to kill me because she thought I was weak. Broken. Not worthy of standing at your side. She looked at Cade, and her expression was fierce. Let me show her exactly how wrong she was. You just woke up from near death. And I've never felt stronger in my life. She flexed her hands, and Cade could feel the power humming through their bond. Her wolf was fully healed, fully present, and absolutely ready for violence. Trust me. The words hit him like a blow. Because they were the same words he'd been asking of her for months. Trust me. Believe in me. Let me prove myself. Slowly, painfully, he nodded. You don't have to kill her. I know. Just, his voice cracked. Come back to me. Sarah smiled, fierce and fearless. Always. They moved to the training grounds. The entire pack gathered. Word had spread fast, and wolves materialized from everywhere to watch their Luna's first challenge. Marcus set the boundaries. Helen stood ready with healing magic. And Cade stood at the edge, every muscle vibrating with the need to interfere, held back only by the trust his mate had asked for. Elena shifted first, a golden wolf, large and powerful, with an alpha's natural dominance rolling off her in waves. She circled Sarah, confident, certain. Treating this like a foregone conclusion. Last chance to run, Elena's wolf growled. I'll make it quick. No, Sarah said, still human. You won't. Then she shifted. The pack gasped. Sarah's wolf was silver. Not white, not gray, true silver, like moonlight and starshine and something ancient made flesh. She was smaller than Elena's golden wolf, but she moved with a grace and power that made size irrelevant. And her eyes blazed with an intelligence and strength that made several pack members step back instinctively. Impossible, someone whispered. Silver Omega wolves are legend, someone else finished. They're supposed to be legend. Elena's wolf hesitated, clearly thrown. Then she attacked. She was fast. Strong. Everything an alpha wolf should be. She came at Sarah with teeth and claws and 30 years of combat experience, expecting to overwhelm her in seconds. Sarah was faster. She dodged the first strike with ease that looked effortless. Countered the second with a snap that drew blood from Elena's shoulder. Danced around the third like she'd been fighting alpha wolves her entire life instead of learning to spar 2 months ago. She's playing with her, Marcus said, awed. Sarah's actually playing with her. Cade couldn't speak. Could only watch through their bond as his mate, his fierce, impossible, perfect mate, dismantled an alpha female piece by piece. Elena got in hits. Drew blood. Made Sarah work for it. But every exchange made it clearer who was going to win. Sarah wasn't just fast, she was strategic. Waiting for openings. Exploiting weaknesses. Fighting with an intelligence that came from surviving things that should have killed her. The final blow came almost gently. Elena lunged for Sarah's throat, overextended, desperate. Sarah sidestepped, caught Elena's foreleg, and took her to the ground with a technique the enforcers had taught her 3 weeks ago. Then she was on Elena's back, jaws at her throat, silver eyes blazing. Submit, Sarah's wolf commanded. And there was power in it, not alpha power, but something else. Something older. Elena struggled for a moment, then went still. Her wolf whined, a sound of surrender, and she shifted back to human beneath Sarah. I yield, Elena gasped. I yield. Sarah shifted back too, still crouched over Elena, breathing hard. You tried to kill me because you thought I was weak. Because I'd been broken. Because you couldn't see past my scars to what I'd survived. She leaned closer. My rejection didn't break me, Elena. It forged me. And I am stronger for every crack, every scar, every moment I chose to keep living when dying would have been easier. Remember that. She stood, leaving Elena on the ground, and walked to Cade. The pack watched in silence as their Luna, bloodied, victorious, absolutely magnificent, stopped before their alpha. Sarah knelt, not in submission but in respect, and bared her throat. I claim the position of Luna of Silvercrest, she said clearly. Not because I was chosen. Not because tradition demands it. But because I fought for it. Because I earned it. And because I will defend this pack with everything I am. She looked up at Cade. If you'll have me. Cade pulled her to her feet, his eyes gold and full of pride and love and wonder. I'll have you, he said roughly. For as long as you'll have me. Forever, then, Sarah said. And kissed him while the pack erupted in howls of approval. Elena was exiled, really exiled this time, with enforcers to make sure she left. Damon, when word reached Redmoon of what had happened, sent a formal letter of concession. He would not contest Sarah's bond to Silvercrest. Would not challenge Cade's claim. Would, in fact, be keeping his distance from both of them for the foreseeable future if he valued his throat. The pack celebrated for 3 days. And on the 4th day, Helen came to Cade's office with an old book and an expression that made his wolf uneasy. What is it? He asked. I've been researching blood-borne omegas, Helen said. Trying to understand what Sarah is. Why her wolf is silver. Why she's so much stronger than she should be. And? Helen opened the book to a page marked with dried flowers. Blood-borne omegas aren't just rare for breeding, Cade. They're rare because they're prophesied. There's an old legend, older than pack law, older than most of our traditions, that says blood-borne omegas are born once a generation to specific bloodlines. And their children, the children of a blood-borne omega and a true alpha, will be the leaders who unite the packs. Who end the territory wars. Who bring peace to our kind for the first time in centuries. Cade stared at her. You're saying our children will be powerful, Helen finished. Stronger than any alpha born in living memory. Natural leaders who can bridge pack boundaries. It's why blood-borne omegas have been hunted throughout history. Why they're so rare. Because there are those who don't want the packs united. Who profit from our division. Who? The old families. The ones who control pack politics through fear and tradition. Helen's expression was grim. And they're already watching, Cade. Word of Sarah, of a silver omega who defeated an alpha female, is spreading. It won't take long before they realize what she is. What she represents. Then we'll protect her, Cade said flatly. The pack will. The pack will try. But these families are powerful. And they've been killing blood-born Omegas for centuries. Helen closed the book. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Because Sarah's existence is going to change everything. And not everyone will be happy about it. That night, Cade held Sarah close and told her everything. She listened in silence, her hand over her stomach where their future children might someday grow. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. So I'm basically a target, she said finally. You're also my mate. My Luna. And I will burn down anyone who tries to hurt you. That's very romantic and slightly terrifying, Sarah said. But she was smiling. Cade, I've been a target my whole life. This is just a different kind of threat. She turned to face him. But I also spent my whole life broken and afraid. And I'm not that person anymore. So whatever comes, old families, political games, ancient prophecies, we face it together. Together, he agreed. She kissed him, and the bond flared warm between them. Besides, she said against his mouth, let them come. I'm a silver Omega who defeated an alpha female 3 days after almost dying. I think I can handle a few politicians. Cade laughed despite himself. You're terrifying, you know that? That's why you love me. One of many reasons. Years later, when their first child was born, a daughter with silver eyes and her mother's fierce spirit, the pack would understand what Helen had meant. Would see the power in that tiny form, the promise of a new generation. But that night, Cade and Sarah simply held each other, two broken wolves who'd found each other against all odds, and dreamed of a future where their children might never know the pain they'd survived. Where love was stronger than tradition. Where choice mattered more than destiny. Where a rejected Omega and a mateless Alpha proved that sometimes the best bonds are the ones forged through healing, trust, and the courage to let someone choose you freely. And in the shadows beyond Silvercrest's borders, old families watched and planned and prepared to make sure that future never came to pass. But that's a story for another day. The end. Epilogue, 5 years later. The attack came on a winter morning when frost painted the windows like warnings written in ice. Sarah was in the nursery with their daughter, Luna, named not for her mother's title but for the moon goddess who'd brought her parents together, when she felt it. A disturbance at the borders. Strange wolves. Too many strange wolves. Marcus, she said into the pack link they'd all strengthened over the years. We have company. I know, Marcus responded, already mobilizing enforcers. 20 wolves. Maybe more. They're not attacking yet. Just watching. Sarah gathered Luna, 3 years old now, silver-eyed and already showing signs of the power Helen had predicted, and moved toward the safe room Cade had built into their home. But she stopped at the window, something making her look. A woman stood at the border. Old, elegant, with eyes that held centuries of knowledge and cruelty. She was looking directly at Sarah's window. Directly at Sarah. And she smiled. Soon, the woman mouthed. We're coming for you soon. Then she and her wolves vanished like smoke, leaving only paw prints in the snow and a promise of war. Sarah held her daughter close and reached through her bond for Cade. They know. I know, he responded. But so do we. And this time, we're ready. Behind Sarah, Luna giggled, her silver eyes swirling with power that shouldn't exist in one so young. Pretty lady, she said. But she smells like lies. Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead and made a promise the old families would learn to regret. They could come. They could try. They could bring all their history and power and ancient prejudice. But they'd forgotten something important. Broken things, when healed, were stronger in the broken places. And Sarah had been broken more times than she could count. Let them come. She was ready. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.